picture this, right? It's 1985.
Okay.
People are just standing outside in the freezing rain, wrapped around the block of a local sporting goods store.
Yeah, miserable weather, too.
Exactly. And they've been there for hours, skipping work, skipping school, just for the slim chance to hand over their hard-earned money for a pair of basketball sneakers.
Which sounds crazy now.
Right. Like, today, we take that kind of scene completely for granted. You know, sneaker culture, the whole product drop hysteria. It's just totally normalized now.
Yeah, it's just Tuesday for us.
But back then, that was basically retail witchcraft. I mean, it really makes you wonder what invisible strings are being pulled behind the scenes.
No, absolutely.
Like, what is the secret sauce that turns a piece of leather and rubber into this massive, world-changing cultural hysteria while, you know, thousands of other supposedly great products just quietly flop and disappear?
Well, it really is the ultimate puzzle, right? For anyone making, selling, or even just buying things.
Right.
Because a successful launch, it isn't some happy accident where a company just puts a decent item on a shelf and, you know, hopes for the best.
Crosses their fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The massive phenomenons you're talking about, they're highly orchestrated events. They rely on deep consumer psychology just as much as they rely on supply chains.
Which brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at this brilliant case study article from Retailbound.
It's a great piece.
Yeah, and for some context for you listening, they are a retail channel management consultancy, and this piece was penned by their president and founder, Johann Jacob.
Right.
So we're going to use this source to really extract the ultimate blueprint for retail success by unpacking 3 historic product launches that just absolutely changed the rules of the game.
And you know, the real value of this specific source material is how it completely strips away that myth of overnight success.
Oh, yeah.
When we look back at the iconic launches we're covering today, they can feel almost inevitable in hindsight. Like, of course they were hits, right?
Right, like they couldn't have failed.
Exactly. But Johann Jacob breaks down the actual mechanics, the strategic planning, the thoughtful execution, and most importantly, the psychological levers these brands pulled to engineer their own success.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our first case study takes us back to that rainy sidewalk in 1985.
The phase this one.
The launch of the Nike Air Jordan. Now, just setting the stage a bit, Nike was already a recognizable name in athletic apparel.
They weren't nobodies.
Right, but the 1985 Air Jordan launch, it didn't just move inventory. I mean, it turned the company into a global cultural titan.
Yeah, and the source outlines several overlapping mechanisms that caused this massive paradigm shift.
Okay.
First, you have the celebrity integration, partnering with Michael Jordan, who was just electrifying the basketball world with a style of play people hadn't really seen before that injected the shoes with instant credibility.
Right, he was flying through the air.
Literally, yeah. But the second piece was this unprecedented blending of performance and high fashion. The Air Jordan line wasn't just pitched as functional sporting equipment.
Like just gym shoes.
Right. It was positioned as a premium fashion statement.
See, I tend to think about this strategy in terms of how, like, an elite nightclub operates.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Because if you want people to believe your club is the absolute place to be on a Friday night, you don't just throw open the double doors and wave everyone off the street inside.
No, you'd look desperate.
Exactly. You put up a velvet rope. You intentionally make people wait outside in a line that everyone driving by can see.
You're manufacturing that aura of an exclusive VIP club.
Yes. And from what the Retailbound article details, Nike essentially placed a velvet rope right in front of their sneakers. I mean, they deliberately released them in small quantities at a time.
They completely engineered scarcity to drive extreme demand.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Isn't the fundamental, like, traditional goal of a product launch to sell as many units as physically possible right out of the gate?
Usually, yes.
Right, so if you are sitting on a warehouse full of shoes and thousands of people are waving cash at you, why on earth would a company intentionally limit their own sales on launch day? I mean, economically, it feels completely backward.
What's fascinating here is how this strategy subverts basic retail logic by tapping into a much deeper psychological reality.
Okay, how so?
Well, basic logic says meet demand with supply. But scarcity creates cognitive dissonance for the consumer. When a product is widely available, your brain tells you, I can buy this tomorrow, or next week, or next month.
Right, there's no rush.
Exactly. There is zero urgency. The purchase is a totally logical decision. But when Nike deliberately limited availability, they bypassed logic and hit the fear center of the brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they changed the consumer's internal monologue from "I might buy this" to "I have to secure this before it's gone forever."
It's like the weaponization of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Precisely that. And when you combine that extreme manufactured scarcity with a cultural icon like Jordan, you elevate the product from just footwear to a Veblen good.
A Veblen good.
Yeah, that's an economic term for a product where demand actually increases as it becomes harder to get or more expensive because it functions as a status symbol.
Ah,
If you manage to get past that velvet rope and buy a pair of Jordans in 1985, you weren't just wearing shoes, you were wearing proof that you were part of an exclusive movement. You had cultural capital.
and what's wild is that the source points out Nike didn't just pull off this magic trick once and coast.
No, they didn't.
They recognized that hype has a half-life, right?
Yeah.
So they committed to continuous product evolution. They released new models every single year, tweaking the design, maintaining that hyper-relevant status symbol vibe.
And honestly, maintaining a hype cycle indefinitely is arguably harder than starting one.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But that annual cadence of highly anticipated new releases meant the velvet rope never actually went away. They just moved it to a new entrance every year, resetting the psychological urgency for the consumer over and over again.
That is just brilliant. So Nike proved that building a wall to create artificial scarcity works perfectly, provided you are targeting a rabid, culturally plugged-in demographic.
Right.
But what if your goal isn't exclusivity? Like, what if your strategy requires you to capture the attention of the exact people who are actively ignoring you?
That is a much tougher problem.
It is. And Nintendo faced exactly this problem, which brings us to our next case study.
The launch of the Nintendo Wii in 2006.
Yes.
We are looking at a completely different landscape here, but an equally brilliant psychological manipulation of the market.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Well, to understand the magnitude of this launch, we have to look at the state of the video game industry at that time. It was a brutal two-horse race between Sony's PlayStation and Microsoft's Xbox.
Oh, man, we all remember those mid-2000s console wars.
They were intense.
It was this massive arms race over processor speeds, polygon counts, and hyper-realistic graphics. Every launch was about catering to the most hardcore gamer possible.
Ugly.
And then, just casually strolling into this technological bloodbath is Nintendo with the Wii. Like, a little white box that was drastically underpowered compared to the competition.
Almost laughably so at the time.
Right. Yet it becomes an instant, absolute global phenomenon, wildly outselling the competitors and reshaping the entire industry. The source attributes this to true innovation, the motion sensor gameplay combined with affordability and approachable design.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Nintendo executed a textbook blue ocean strategy.
Blue ocean?
Yeah, in business strategy, the red ocean is where all the sharks are fighting over the same bloody prey. Sony and Microsoft were sharks locked in a vicious battle over a finite demographic of hardcore gamers.
That makes sense.
The competition was incredibly expensive, and the margins were thin. Nintendo realized that fighting for those same exact gamers was a losing battle. So they swam out to the clear blue water, the untapped market of non-gamers.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if you are dealing with a demographic of seniors or parents or just casual adults who haven't touched a joystick since, like the Pac-Man arcade cabinets in the 1980s, how do you convince them to buy a gaming console?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Why was the Wii the thing that suddenly made grandma want to play video games?
It comes down to something we can call controller anxiety.
Controller anxiety.
Yeah. Think about handing a standard 2006 PlayStation controller to someone who has never played a game. It has dual analog joysticks, a directional pad, 4 face buttons, 4 shoulder triggers.
It's intimidating.
To a non-gamer, that piece of plastic is terrifying. It basically screams, you don't know how to use this, and you're going to look foolish trying.
Oh, that's so true. It's like being handed the cockpit controls of a 747 and being told to just, have fun with it.
Exactly. That controller was a physical barrier to entry. It required complex muscle memory that non-gamers simply didn't have.
So how did the Wii fix that?
Well, the genius of Nintendo was looking at that barrier and deciding to completely bypass it by utilizing muscle memory that everyone already possesses.
The motion controls.
Right. The motion sensor gameplay wasn't just a fun gimmick. It was a profound psychological simplification tool. A 5-year-old and an 85-year-old both intuitively understand the physics of swinging a tennis racket or rolling a bowling ball or steering a wheel.
You literally just hold the remote and move your arm.
Exactly. By tying the gameplay to real-world physical actions rather than complex button combinations, Nintendo eliminated the fear of failure.
They removed the humiliation factor.
Precisely. They didn't have to convince Sony's hardcore gamers to switch loyalties. They simply expanded the total addressable market to include millions of people who had previously been left out of the conversation entirely.
It really is a beautiful contrast when you hold it up against the Nike launch.
It really is.
I mean, Nike succeeded by building a massive wall and making you desperately want to climb over it to join the club. Nintendo succeeded by realizing everyone else was building walls, so they just tore the building down and invited the whole neighborhood to play in the yard.
That's a great way to put it. Two entirely different approaches to consumer psychology, manufactured scarcity versus radical accessibility, and both resulted in legendary retail launches.
So we've explored the power of exclusivity and the brilliance of expanding the audience. Now, let's examine what happens when a company takes those concepts, adds a masterclass in manufacturing hype, and applies them to solving a profoundly complex daily frustration for the consumer.
The big one.
Let's look at 2007, the launch of the Apple iPhone.
It is genuinely difficult to overstate how disruptive this single product launch was.
It changed everything.
It did, and the Retailbound case study emphasizes a crucial detail here. In 2007, Apple was an absolute newcomer to the mobile phone market. They were known for desktop computers, laptops, and the iPod. The mobile market was completely dominated by entrenched giants. Yet they walked in and essentially reset the timeline of consumer technology.
You almost have to mentally transport yourself back to what our pockets and bags looked like before 2007 to appreciate it.
Oh, it was a mess.
It really was. If you were even moderately tech-savvy or like a business professional, you were carrying a bulky cell phone just for your calls. You had a separate MP3 player, probably an iPod, with its own tangled mess of wired headphones.
Yep.
If you were going somewhere interesting, you brought a separate digital camera. And if you needed to check emails on the go, you were pecking away at a physical plastic keyboard on a BlackBerry or a Palm Pilot.
I remember those tiny keyboards.
It was a logistical nightmare of chargers, cables, and devices. And the source points out that Apple's monumental success stemmed from recognizing that consumers were desperate to converge all of this into one multifunctional device.
Convergence is the key word here. They took disparate, siloed technologies and forced them into a single piece of hardware. But, as the case study highlights, the concept of a smartphone wasn't entirely new.
Right. BlackBerries existed.
Exactly. The mechanism of Apple's success was how they executed that convergence.
Right. It's like they wanted to invent the ultimate digital Swiss Army knife. But, I mean, if you've ever actually used a real Swiss Army knife, it's actually pretty clunky.
Oh, absolutely.
The scissors are tiny and hard to use. The little saw blade is awkward to hold. When you cram a bunch of tools together, you usually compromise on the quality of each individual tool.
And that is exactly the trap that Nokia and BlackBerry had fallen into. They were just bolting new features onto old, clunky operating systems.
Just adding more buttons.
Right, they were adding more plastic buttons to solve new problems. What the source credits Apple for is solving the Swiss Army knife problem through the sheer elegance of their user interface.
The touchscreen.
The intuitive, multi-touch glass screen meant the device could morph into whatever tool you needed at that exact moment. It was a keyboard when you needed to type, a viewfinder when you needed to take a photo, and a dial pad when you needed to call someone.
It was magic.
It felt like magic, yeah.
Yeah.
The interface adapted to the user, rather than forcing the user to adapt to a static piece of plastic. This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
Having the best, most elegant product in the world doesn't automatically mean you get a historic launch. We've all seen incredible technology fail because nobody knew it existed.
That's true.
How does a newcomer, even Apple, capture that level of massive, culture-stopping demand against companies like BlackBerry, who literally owned the corporate world at the time?
Well, I'm guessing it wasn't just a few good billboards.
The answer lies in the architecture of anticipation. This is where Johann Jacob's analysis of the iPhone launch is so critical. Apple utilized what the source calls hype-driven marketing, but they did it on a scale that was completely unprecedented. Steve Jobs announced the iPhone at the Macworld convention in January of 2007, but the device didn't actually go on sale until late June.
Oh, wow. That is 6 months of deliberate, agonizing tension?
They turned the launch into a slow-burn cultural event.
Just letting people stew in the excitement.
Exactly, and the mechanics of that original keynote presentation are legendary. Jobs didn't just walk out and say, "Here's a phone that plays music." He played with the audience's psychology.
Right.
He told them Apple was introducing 3 revolutionary products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device.
I remember this.
Yeah, he repeated that several times until the audience finally realized the tension breaking into applause
Yeah.
that he was talking about one single device.
It gives you chills just thinking about it.
By deeply understanding the friction of carrying 3 separate devices and then promising a sleek solution 6 months before anyone could touch it, Apple generated a media frenzy that basically did all their marketing for them.
And crucially, just like the Air Jordan strategy, the source points out that Apple didn't view launch day as the finish line.
Not at all.
Right, they committed to an aggressive schedule of ongoing improvements. Regular free software updates fundamentally changed how the phone worked post-purchase, and new hardware iterations were launched annually. It wasn't just dropping a gadget into the market, it was introducing consumers to an entire ecosystem that kept evolving.
Which is the most effective way to lock in the success of a massive launch.
Yeah.
If you just sell a device, the relationship ends at the cash register. If you sell an evolving platform, the launch is just the beginning of a multi-year relationship with that consumer.
So we've dissected 3 wildly different industries. We have premium basketball shoes, a family-friendly gaming console, and a revolutionary touchscreen smartphone.
3 massive hits.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Like, how do we take these massive historic lightning strikes and boil them down into an actionable blueprint?
That's the real takeaway here.
Yeah, whether you are trying to launch a new software startup, a physical retail product, or even just pitch a massive new initiative to your board of directors, how do you actually apply this?
Well, synthesizing these case studies is the core value of the Retailbound article. Johann Jacob distills these varied cultural events into 4 universal pillars for launch success.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is to innovate and differentiate. You cannot succeed by bringing a product to market that is only marginally better than what already exists.
Right, you can't just release a gaming controller with 1 extra button and expect to win. You have to fundamentally change the interaction, like Nintendo's motion controls or Apple replacing physical keyboards with a sheet of glass.
Exactly. The second pillar is intimately knowing your audience and their pain points. You have to solve a real, perhaps unspoken customer need.
Like Apple recognizing the sheer annoyance of untangling headphone wires and carrying 3 devices when the consumer just wanted a seamless experience.
Precisely. And the third pillar is creating anticipation. We saw this with Nike's deliberate velvet rope strategy and Apple's 6-month hype cycle.
You can't just drop it on a Tuesday without warning.
No, you have to architect the marketing so that people are emotionally invested in the product long before they have the physical ability to purchase it.
Okay, and the last one.
Finally, the fourth pillar, continuous improvement. The momentum generated on launch day will naturally decay unless you inject it with post-launch updates, new models, and continuous evolution.
That makes total sense.
And what's deeply validating about this blueprint is its practical application. The source notes that Johann Jacob and the Retailbound team don't just write about this. They use these exact principles to help brands scale across over 150 retailers in the US and Canada.
Oh, wow, so it's tested.
Very much so. Their day-to-day work in retail strategy and buyer engagement proves that a massive launch isn't magic. It's the result of rigorous strategic planning, a deep empathy for human behavior, and continuous optimization.
It completely rewires how you look at a store shelf or an online storefront, doesn't it?
It really does.
I mean, the next time you see hundreds of people lining up for a sneaker drop, or you see a new piece of tech completely hijacking your social media feeds, you won't just see a popular product. You'll see the machinery working behind the scenes.
Yes.
You'll recognize the scarcity tactics, the deliberate audience expansion, the agonizing buildup of anticipation.
You are able to see the architecture of the hype rather than just getting swept up in it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope that unpacking the psychological mechanics behind these historic examples equips you with a powerful new blueprint for standing out in whatever fiercely competitive marketplace you're navigating.
Looking back at the mechanics of past successes always illuminates the path forward.
Absolutely. But before we let you go, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Throughout this deep dive, we've spent a lot of time analyzing the magic of day one.
The big launch.
Right, the long lines, the keynote presentations, the instant sellouts. But let's look closer at that final pillar from the Retailbound blueprint. Continuous improvement. Think about a product, a brand, or even an app that you used to absolutely love. One that was everywhere for a hot minute but eventually faded away or failed entirely.
We all have one.
Did they have a phenomenal launch but completely neglect the evolution phase? It is a brutally tough market out there. If you were launching your dream project tomorrow and you flawlessly executed this blueprint, you might have an incredible, world-changing day one. But
Okay.
what exactly is your concrete plan to ensure they are still lining up in year two? Keep exploring, keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.